everyone, and welcome back to Gap Gracepoint Online. If you're new to our channel, welcome. And if you have a look at our channel, you'll find a whole bunch of other resources that could help you as someone who is leading and guiding a preteen. The aim of today's session, which is understanding your preteen, is for any one of us who is leading a preteen in any capacity, whether that be as a parent, a guardian, a teacher, a Sunday school teacher, or even someone who is an aunt or uncle or just a friend or family friend to somebody with a preteen, to better understand a preteen. As we want to effectively minister and help and guide our preteens, we firstly need to understand them. And at times that can be very difficult and very daunting. And so today our hope is to be able to help you to understand your preteen. Now, firstly, let's define what we mean by preteen. Preteen is generally categorized as anyone between the ages of 10 and 12. And so when we speak about preteen, especially in relation to our GAP ministry, we're speaking specifically our 10, 11, and 12-year-olds. So what are our preteens all about? What are they like? How do we even start to understand them? Today we're going to be going through some of the spiritual, the emotional, the physical, the mental, and even the intellectual stages of development where they are. The aim of this is not to be boring, but to really be able to help you understand your preteen so that you can best lead and guide them as you help them in their journey, whether that be, like I explained in the beginning, as a parent or guardian, or as someone who's just interacting or teaching with them, or just someone who's watching and wanting to understand more about this age group. And so let's jump right in as we start understanding our preteen for today. Firstly, we look at the physical aspect. Now, by this age, our preteens or our children have mastered most of the physical skills. They are able to dress themselves, they are able to do the basic tasks, and they've grown up from being fully dependent on their parents for their physical needs to be provided, to now being able to do a lot of this themselves. We also know that they are active and that they are curious and that they seek a variety of new experiences, and so often they will be pushing the boundaries of what it means to be able to do physical tasks. You might find your preteens trying to do something that you would consider dangerous or being more daring in terms of physical activities. Relax, this is completely normal. They are just trying to explore and figure out the world through their creative senses, through their physical senses, and so being able to try different demanding and challenging tasks so that they can push the boundaries to find their limits. Now, how do we as leaders and guiders of our preteens work with this developmental stage to really help and guide them? And so what does it mean for us? Well, firstly, it is to know that they will want to participate in activities. They will often be excited and engaging, and they will often want to be part of these activities. It's not going to be like your teenagers, which I'll warn you will come a little bit later, where they won't want to participate as actively, but they will want to. Likely you will need to caution and provide some cautionary boundaries to say, this is what it means to be safe and to test the boundaries, and this is where we have now drawn the line of unsafe, and this is dangerous. So it's just about providing those boundaries and those parameters to your preteen, and then allowing them to be engaging and exploring and curious and active. Another thing that you will find is they would want to find out more about the world. So research activities might be very interesting for them. Finding more about different fields might be very interesting. And so as you lead and guide, these are some things that you may want to consider. Another teaching tip or another way of guiding that I could maybe just share with you is that they generally would be different from boys to girls. At age 10, your boys would be generally okay to be in different gendered groups. So they would be okay to work with girls and boys and other genders. But as they grow older, especially the girls, no longer necessarily want to work in those different gendered groups. Girls will generally work better when they are just with members of their same gender. And so if you are someone teaching, this might be a helpful tip to remember. Next up, let's look at where they are emotionally. Emotionally, children of this age are cooperative. They are easygoing, mostly are confident, but they will be shy at times where they have figured out that they are not quite competent in a skill. They are friendly and they are agreeable. You might be amazed by your preteen to see how easily they interact with others, even adults and children of different ages. They are friendly, they are agreeable, they are wanting to participate. And most adults will easily engage with this group. This is a really great age also if you're looking to get involved in children's ministry or to lead a class. It's a really great age to start because they are curious, they are engaging, they are friendly, and they are agreeable. And so generally you will be accepted. You'll have no challenge working with them. Although boys and girls are similar, they tend to start to differ at these stages, and so they will begin to think about their future as adults. They might pose questions to you like, why do adults do X? Or one day when I'm big, I want to do Y. And so these would be helpful things to start having conversations about the future, especially around value-based systems, so that you can set that foundation for your preteen, so that when they reach preteen, where we know that they are very challenged, especially in terms of ethics and boundaries, they already have a very solid foundation and a very solid place to start from because you've had some of those conversations. Now, what does this mean for us as someone who is leading someone who is a preteen? Well, be aware that because they are growing and because they are learning about themselves and the world around them, there may be some behavioral changes. It does not necessarily always point to an issue or something dramatic that has happened, but just be aware that some behavioral changes may be normal. But as a parent or as a guardian or as someone leading and guiding, be aware when the reaction is completely different from how the child was before, or when the behavior completely shifts. This might be a sign that there is something bigger going on. But generally, as preteens, they are going through some changes. And so because of the changes to their body, the way that their mind works, the way that their brains work, they may have some behavioral changes and mood shifts. This could include tiredness. Remember that they are also beginning their growth spurt as teenagers. And so their bodies are growing rapidly and they may become tired. With tiredness comes irritability. With irritability comes mood swings and anger. It's not necessarily all a sign that something bigger or something bad is happening. It might just be that they are naturally and developmentally changing, and so their behavior is changing as well. As those leading and guiding, we need to understand that what they require from us right now is patient understanding. For us to be judgmental as adults and to pass judgment on some of the decisions that they are making, some of the thoughts that they're having, will not be a helpful space. They are needing a comfortable space so that they can explore, so that they can grow, so that they can begin to understand the world and see who they are and how they fit into our world. It's especially important at this age to take the time to listen. One of the great things, as I said before, is that they are wanting to talk. They are friendly and they are agreeable in general. And so this is the stage before they turn into moody teenagers, where they want to share what they're thinking with you. They are wanting to share some of the dilemmas they might be having, some of the problems they may be having. And so the best thing that we can do as adults to help and guide them is to listen, to provide a safe space for conversation and a place that they feel heard and understood. Please also remember that at this age, they are really beginning to be influenced by their peers and by the world and culture around them. And so they are needing your support and encouragement and a boost as much as possible. Some kids may have low self-esteem. Some may be shy. In general, they will be confident and self-assured, but some may need that extra encouragement. And so as parents, as guardians, as teachers and leaders, we are the ones that they look to for this guiding and leading. Next, let's have a look at where they are in terms of their social development. Friendships are beginning to become really, really important, and they're wanting to spend more time with their social group. Don't feel like your child hates you or your preteen is just not liking you, that you've done something wrong just because they don't want to spend as much time with you as they did before. This is normal. This is natural. They are going through the developmental stage or developmental task of gaining independence. And so they will naturally tend to slightly draw away or to slightly emphasize the importance of their peer group more as they are wanting to get that independence, as they are establishing that independence. Obviously, they are not fully capable or developmentally ready to be fully independent, and so our role is to come alongside them to allow them to exercise their independence, but to also guide and lead and facilitate. As I mentioned before, generally they are wanting to be part of a similar gendered group, and so you will generally find that ladies will stick with ladies in their peer group and boys will stick with boys. But there may be some interaction between the groups, but they will feel predominantly more comfortable with people of a similar or same gender to them. And then remember that they are at that stage where their confidence is being built, and so they may not want to participate or compete individually. They may be afraid of things like public speaking when they have to do it individually, but they will enjoy team sports or team activities a lot more because they are not isolated or singled out, or their capability is not measured on their individual ability. And so they might find it better to participate in group activities or group sports. Keep this in mind as someone that is leading and guiding a preteen. How does this apply to us? How does this impact how we now manage or how we facilitate the growth of our preteen? Well, children are no longer going to be thinking out loud, and so try to keep those communication channels open, ask open-ended questions, and avoid making judgmental statements or comments. Allow yourself to be a sounding board where they can get advice and support, especially around social challenges such as friendship groups, activities, or even some pressures that they may be having from their friendship groups. Allow them space to interact with their friendship groups and establish those peer-to-peer relationships and gain some independence. But again, remember to provide healthy parameters and boundaries and some solid guidance, and to be a space where they can reflect and share and question whether some of this interaction is good, bad, normal, unusual, you name it. Next up, let's look at where our preteens are intellectually. What are they thinking? How is their brain getting developed? At this point, they are generally still quite verbal. If you are a teacher of a preteen, you will find that they are wanting to talk, and you might need to say, allow me some space to talk. It's my time to talk now as well. But generally, they are quite verbal, but they are also agreeable and understanding. So allow opportunity for reflection, allow opportunity for yourself to be able to talk, but also for you to listen to them and for them to feel heard and understood. Making ethical decisions is a challenging task of your preteen. They may not be able to have that judgment or that conscience that is as established as an adult, and so they may struggle to make ethical decisions. At times, when you point out something that they have done that is ethically incorrect or unfavorable, they will have the understanding to be able to understand why it is wrong if you explain it to them, but in the moment, in the situation, their natural instinct may take over and they may make the wrong decision. Understand this, support and encourage and guide, do not condemn. You will break the confidence of the child. And then one last thing to know about their intellectual development is that hero worship at this point might be very strong. They are looking for positive role models. However, their understanding of what may be a good value system or a really positive role model may be shaped very largely by popular culture and by the influences around them. You might be looking at somebody that your child worships, whether it be a celebrity or even a cartoon character, and think, that behavior is not quite the behavior that I'd like to see. And so rather engage the intellectual aspect and the emotional aspect of your child or the preteen that you're guiding and leading to say, why would this be a positive role model to you? Do you think some of these behaviors are good, bad? Are these preferable? Are these accepted behaviors? What does the Bible tell us? What does culture tell us? What you want to avoid doing at this age is throwing the Bible at them. Now, we're speaking specifically around spiritual guidance, and we'll get into it for a moment just now where they are at spiritually. But you don't want to say the Bible says unless the Bible actually does say it. What this does is it creates an unhealthy culture of simply doing without understanding or also just having a negative perception of faith and Christianity as a rule book rather than a relationship that requires some form of responsible response and responsible way of living. As you are helping with basic intellectual activities such as homework or teaching or guiding, or even some physical activities that require a sense of growth, such as a sport, try not to break them down. Try to give guidance and try to positively encourage them and give constructive criticism. If you're going to give negative feedback all the time without a sense of positivity or without helping them understand that this is for their growth, they might establish a negative self-esteem, shut down, or completely isolate themselves from that activity. For example, if you are coaching them or helping them or even supporting them in their soccer team and you say, those passes are really bad, you need to work on that, without providing ways of working on it or being willing to work on it with them, they might just say, soccer is stupid, I don't want to do soccer anymore, and they might completely isolate themselves from the activity, which is something that you don't want to do. They are naturally inquisitive and wanting to explore, and so let's tap into that and allow them to be exposed to as many growth opportunities as possible. And then lastly, spiritually. Where are our kids spiritually when they are preteens? Well, spiritually, they have feelings of love for God. They can feel and have a connection with God, and they are able to grasp abstract constructs at this point, which means that they are able to understand that we can have a relationship with a God that is unseen but yet experienced. It is not that we need to be as concrete with them as we do with younger children, though we may need to provide some concrete ways of understanding and exploring spirituality and faith. Object lessons are still really good as they provide a practical way of seeing our faith. However, they may be able to use metaphors and metaphoric language, which is what we naturally use in spirituality. At this age, they may also be able to and willing and wanting to share the good news of Christ with their friends. You may be amazed at your preteen about how confidently and willingly they would tell their friends about Jesus or invite them to church. And let's, as adults, not just think that this is about us learning how to guide and lead a preteen, but let's allow ourselves to also learn from our preteens and be guided and led by their behavior. Maybe we've got to take a page out of their book to learn about what it means to invite others to church and to also be able to speak freely about faith to them. Remember that they are not ethically able to make all the decisions, and so at times their decisions may be contrary to what they profess or proclaim in their faith or the set of behaviors or values that we like to instill as Christians. Allow for grace. They are trying, they are learning, they are exploring, they will not get it right. As adults, we struggle to get it right all the time, and so allow for that space to be safe, for them to make mistakes, to understand why this may not be the way that God would like them to live, or that there is a preferred behavior as the church, but allow it to be a safe space of encouragement and growth, rather than condemnation and a feeling that they cannot exist alongside God because God is this really cruel and harsh and disciplinarian figure, rather than a loving and creative God that guides us into a different way of living. And so lastly, provide opportunities to your preteens to give them choice. They are able to make decisions and to help them make decisions also with regards to their spirituality. Forcing them to come to church may set them up for a negative association to church when they become teenagers, but also don't relax too much as someone who is guiding a preteen, because then they may not ever get into the habit or the discipline of attending church. And so it's a happy medium between a choice. What you may want to explore, for example, is to say, as a family, we're going to church this week. Would you like to attend the first service or the second service? That way they understand that going to church is not an option, because it's a discipline and a practice and an activity that the family would like to do together, but they also have to be able to exercise that option of choice and to say, so I feel more comfortable at the first service, or I feel more comfortable at the second service. And so they are able to make the choice and take ownership of that decision rather than feel that they are being forced to come to church. And so there's a lot that we've covered and learned today. This may be a video that you want to come back to time after time. There's a lot of information that I've shared with you, but the aim of this is to be able to understand what it is like to be a preteen, what it's like to live in a world where you're figuring things out, you're exploring, you're not 100% confident yet. As adults, we know that our world is difficult and challenging. To make ethical decisions is difficult. And so imagine what it must be like for a preteen who has not fully physically or behaviorally, socially, mentally, intellectually, or emotionally developed yet. The biggest thing I can leave with you is to allow for space of conversation. Allow spaces where you as a family are able to discuss difficult issues. Allow for spaces that your child feels that they can speak to you. Don't feel that they are not liking you or not wanting to be around you when they are trying to gain independence, but allow for a space for yourself to always be available to them whenever they need you, because they need you more than you may think at this age. And so I really hope that this has helped you understand your preteen better. If you'd like to maybe just pop us a message, you can email us at gap@gracepoint.co.za, gap@gracepoint.co.za, and we can look at what some of those topics are that you may want to know about and what may be helpful to you as someone who is leading and guiding and facilitating the growth of a preteen, so that we can help you as a member of the GAP community, or even someone who just wants to learn about kids at this developmental age, to be able to understand and guide and lead them better. This is all from us at the GAP team for today. Thank you for joining us right here at GAP Gracepoint Online on our new segment, Understanding Your Preteen. Please do look out for more episodes. They'll be coming out soon. And so have a great week further, and we hope to see you next time.